welcome to episode 2 of OBC at Home. My name is Tom.
And I'm Ellie, and we want to start this episode by saying a huge thank you to those who gave positive feedback about the first episode. It was great to hear how well it was received and how so many of you enjoyed watching it.
Absolutely. And we really wanted to take some inspiration from Nigel from our last episode and to get out in the garden to host this show for you. But sadly, the weather has turned, the rain has started to fall, and so we're staying put here indoors.
But don't worry, because even if the weather is gloomy, we are here to bring some joy and entertainment to your lives right now with OBC at Home.
That's right, we've got some of your favourite features coming up from episode 1, as well as some new features that are joining us for the first time this week. We're so grateful to everyone who has contributed to our show this week, and we can't wait for you to see what we've got coming up later in the show.
But first, we're going to start again with some music from Resound Worship.
Christ the author of all things, every heart adore. Christ the everlasting God, reigning at the Father's side from eternity, wrapped in everlasting light, clothed in majesty, the beginning and the end. Christ our Savior, King of glory and of grace, reign forever. You are worthy of our hearts unending praise. When our hearts were far away, still He came for us, left His glory, took our place, suffered on the cross. Through His death He won our peace. Now no condemnation stands, we are truly free. We were crucified with Christ, we will surely be raised in everlasting life. Christ our Savior, King of glory and of grace, reign forever. You are worthy of our hearts unending praise. He will come again in power with authority. Sin and death will be destroyed in His victory. We will see Him face to face, and then every tongue will cry and all, every bended knee will acknowledge He is Lord. Then our hearts will be lost in everlasting praise. Christ our Savior, King of glory and of grace, reign forever. You are worthy of our praise. Christ our Savior, King of glory and of grace, reign forever. You are worthy of our hearts unending praise. Christ our Savior, King of glory and of grace, reign forever. You are worthy of our hearts unending praise.
So that was Joel Payne and Resound Worship with Calm and Worship Christ the King. A huge thank you to Resound Worship for making all of their resources copyright free for churches to use during this time. Of course, it isn't just churches that are having to change and adapt the way they do things at the moment. We know there's lots of others who are having to do things differently right now. Some of you may have seen the Big Night In on BBC a week or so ago. It was a great night of entertainment, full of sketches from some of the nation's favourite characters and stars. Stephen Fry returned as Melchett from Blackadder, Matt Lucas as Vicky Pollard from Little Britain, Dawn French as the Vicar of Dibley, among many others. Well, we've got a classic sketch coming up for you now from our very own Gillian Mason. These monologues are a real crowd pleaser at so many of our church social events. So sit back and enjoy this adaptation of the classic Victoria Wood sketch, Kimberly.
Hello. I'm looking for my friend, Kimberly. Have you seen her? She's really, really tall and really, really wide. I was waiting for her outside, but this great big dog started sniffing up at my espadrilles, so I came inside. I don't know what sort it were. It was just really, really woolly, the kind that normally has 4 wheels and an handle attached to it. Kimberly and me, well, we're having a day out, you see, but we became separated, so we agreed we'd meet up here. We've had a smashing day around town so far. We've done a lot. This morning we started off at Coffee Bar, and Kimberly, well, she had a chai latte and a Garibaldi, and I had a coffee macchiato and a crumpet. Oh, it were lovely. And then we went to try on some shoes at market, and we sniffed some odour eaters. Yeah, it's our day off, you see, from supermarket. Cheapside, that's where we both work. Kimberly's on meat counter. She chops meat, great big bits. Well, she don't really chop them like, she just snaps them in two. And I'm on pricing, yeah. So if Mrs Gupta on our till gets, say, a red cabbage that's unpriced, she'll go, "Red cabbage, how much?" And I go, "Red cabbage, no idea." It's really a responsibility, yeah. Oh, Mrs Gupta's really nice. I like her. She comes from, where is it? It's a right funny sounding place, a really long way away. Oswald Twistle, yeah. I didn't think there'd be that many people here at this time, you know. No, but you can't miss Kimberly. She's really, really tall. She's so tall that she normally has bits of ceiling sticking in her hair. Except today, she's got a really fancy hairdo. We went to this trendy hair salon this morning, both of us, and Kimberly got a spiral perm and a mohican, and I had me berry trimmed. Do you like it? Well, after that, we went to this really great clothes boutique and we tried on loads of things. The only problem is that Kimberly's really, really enormous, so she had to buy the only thing that fitted. And it's not everybody that suits a changing cubicle now, is it? Well, she hasn't got it on at the moment. She's left it back there. They're taking up the doors. Well, after our shopping spree, we were really peckish, so we went to this really sophisticated French restaurant called the Quatre Saisons, where there were this man played piano, just like Richard Clayderman, only much faster. And then there were a drop-dead gorgeous waiter, and he came up to us and he said to Kimberly, "Ooh, I like the dimples in your cheeks." Except they're not dimples, they're holes where she ate a kebab sideways. Well, anyway, he then brought us menu, but it were all in French, and I don't know any French. So I said, "Excuse me, what does this mean, please?" And he said, 10% service charge. So I said, "Right, well, I'll have that with some lettuce." And then I had a cocktail. Well, it were half a shandy with a little umbrella in it. But Kimberly were really, really naughty. She had 5 pints. Yeah, 5 pints of sherry. Well, we had to leave soon after that. I don't know why police women have to hold your arms up like this when they're moving you along. And Kimberly weren't doing anything wrong, really. She was just playing piano. You'd think they'd be dead impressed with somebody who knows how to play chopsticks just using the nose. Well, then we hung around outside Town Hall for a bit. Kimberly sat down on Town Hall steps until they started to sag in middle, so she had to get up again. And then she suggested we went to pictures. But I said, I'm not going to pictures with you to see an horror film, Kimberly, because when you scream, I can see right to the back of your tonsils, and they've always got bits of hot dog stuck to them. It's disgusting. And Kimberly wouldn't go and see a comedy with me, because when I laugh, chips come down my nose. So we compromised, and we went to see Mary Poppins 2, The Revenge. It was quite good, really. Though Kimberly did insist on sitting up in balcony until it started to break away front wall, so then we had to go and sit down in stalls. And this creepy man came and sat next to her and put his hand on her knee. Well, he soon wished he hadn't done that when she started to eat his fingers. Kimberly isn't fazed by anybody, I tell you. Only last week, the pair of us were in town when this flasher jumped out in front of us. I were out of there in a jiffy, but Kimberly just stood there as bold as brass, and she gave him marks out of 10 for presentation. Hey, don't bother her at all, no. Well, after pictures, Kimberly insisted on going to a cocktail bar, and she made her own cocktails. Well, first 2 ingredients were a galvanised bucket and some paraffin. And then she did some really interesting breakdancing, which is quite tricky in the back of an ambulance. Well, I've just left her back at casualty at the moment. No, she's not really hurt. No, she's all right, actually. She's a tough cookie, is our Kimberly, because when she got run over a couple of months ago by this car, the only thing that got damaged were exhaust pipe, so I'm not worried about her. But I just said I'd come on up here and get in the queue so that she could come and join me. But the trouble is, I've been here ages now, and I'm not near at counter. You lot were all here before me, weren't you? Have you all had your burgers? Huh? What? Huh? What? Oh, is this not Burger King then? Oh, I did begin to wonder when I saw that woman over there with fancy hairdo and dangly earrings. I thought it were going up market. Oh, I bet Kimberly's next door. She's gonna die laughing when I tell her I spent all this time standing in a bingo hall. Oh, well, I better get off over there, because after me burger, I'm going to me evening class. I'm learning a new foreign language. It's called How to Get By in Flemish, just in case I ever get the opportunity to go to Flem. Bye.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jill. Now, of course, Jill isn't the only person in our church gifted in drama and the performing arts.
No, that's right. We're really fortunate as a church to have what many of you have known over the years as the Regeneration Band and the Translucent Theatre Company, known collectively as Paradox Performing Arts.
For many years, Paradox have been performing sketches and shows here at OBC, but also in other settings and lots of other churches too.
Today we tend to see them most often around Christmas and Easter and some of the other major services throughout the year when they perform some sketches for us. But over the years they have performed some quite amazing shows.
They have. In fact, we introduced one of their shows in our last episode of OBC at Home. You may remember that Andy Bennett has been remastering his old recordings into digital format so that he can release a variety of shows on YouTube. 2 weeks ago, he released the first of these shows, The Act of Ludicrous, over on our YouTube channel. and we know lots of you have really enjoyed watching it again. In fact, for a number of you, it brought back fond memories of either being there at the time or perhaps even performing in it.
Indeed. Well, Andy is about to release the second show in this series, and once again he's produced a little teaser of what you can expect. This time it's from all the way back in 1997, from a show called Aspects of Life.
Now hold on a moment.
What is it?
You're right, darling. Nicholas is better. Nicholas Thomas Jeffrey.
From Aspects of Life, kindly produced for us by Andy Bennett. The full performance is going to be released tonight at 7 p.m. over on our YouTube channel. So if you enjoyed watching the Acts of Ludicrous a few weeks ago, then make sure you head over to our YouTube channel this evening for Aspects of Life, performed live at OBC 23 years ago now in 1997. Now, it's time for something a little more serious. Last time out, you may remember, Tom met with Chris Swan to talk about the impact COVID-19 has had on education. Well, this week, Tom wanted to hear more about what is happening in our hospitals here in Leicester and how the healthcare professionals working in them have been impacted. So he met up with Sue Harris to learn more about what life is like in our hospitals right now.
Well, hi Sue, thank you for joining me. Can you just remind us who you are and what your role is in the hospitals here in Leicester?
For those who don't know me, I'm Sue Harris. I've been working in nursing since I left school. I moved to work in day case surgery 25 years ago, which gave me the weekends free then to actually concentrate on church and church activities. And I became what's known as a pre-assessment nurse about 18 years ago. Now, this means I assess people coming in for day surgery, make sure that they're fit enough, that their social circumstances allow for that. I do various tests, investigations like blood tests, ECGs, sort of heart traces. I check all the results on those, liaise with the surgeons and anaesthetists where needed, refer people back to GPs or other health professionals if they've got health issues that need sorting out in the meantime.
It's quite a busy role then. You say you've been doing that for 18 years?
18 years, thereabouts.
Wow. So how has your role kind of been impacted? Has it changed at all? Obviously, you've been doing a lot of day surgery stuff. Is that kind of stopped now? What's your role look like at the moment?
At the moment, all planned surgery except for some cancer surgeries have been cancelled. This has impacted quite a lot because there's very little pre-assessment going on. So pre-assessment nurses have been moved out back onto the wards. That is completely different to when I was last there. A lot of people have been moved into areas that they're not familiar with. The day surgery unit has closed down, so those nurses are back on the wards. Things in peripheral hospitals have closed down, and those nurses have moved back into the main 3 hospitals. And so I'm now working on a urology ward, supposedly. That's what I volunteered to do. But when I got there, I found that they were taking patients with surgical problems and urology problems. So these are patients who need major surgery for cancers that cannot wait, and patients who have become ill, often with things like gallstones or appendicitis, or with blockages in their urinary system, which needs urgent treatment, blockages in the bowels that needs urgent treatment. But the ward I was allocated to was then told that they were taking all the COVID patients. So anybody coming in with those surgical problems that was also found to have the coronavirus was put onto our ward. So not having worked on the ward for 25 years, having to get used to the way things have changed. Basic nursing care is obviously still the same. Doing a bed bath, emptying a catheter, those things are the same, but the way that we record things is completely different. So I'm carrying around an iPad, putting everything I do, inputting that onto the iPad. Drug rounds, so if somebody wants a paracetamol for a headache, it's got to go into the iPad, see the prescription on there, and it all has to be recorded that way. So those colleagues of mine that are afraid of technology are quite worried about that. And all the infusion pumps and drips and drains, everything has changed the way that they work, but it's getting used to all of that. On the wards themselves, we constantly have to wear a face mask and even protective goggles over the glasses. Apron and gloves have to be worn and changed between every patient. Because we're on the wards not doing what they term aerosol generating procedures, so we're not sort of intubating people for ventilation, we're not doing any invasive procedures. Our PPE, as they call it, personal protective equipment, is a gown and gloves. A lot of people think that that isn't enough. If you're bed bathing somebody who's got coronavirus and you've got bare arms, is that sufficient? But as they say, you can wash your arms. So the government guidelines that we're following say we just wear apron and gloves. So that's what we're doing. So it's changed completely. There's no visiting on the wards. So patients are getting a bit lonely. Then we're obviously having to have those conversations. But if somebody is in a side room with coronavirus, you've got to go in there. You can only do what you can do in there. If you get in there and found you've not got something you need, some tissues or a bowl, then to be able to go and fetch that, you would have to take off your apron, your gloves, wash your hands, go out, fetch what you want and put it all back on again. So it's usually a case of pulling a buzzer or shouting from the door and seeing if anybody else can get that for you. So things are a lot more time consuming, and you do everything you need for that patient at that time to avoid having to come in and out so many times. But in between times, you're just sort of opening the door and shouting from the door just to check that everything's all right, make sure that they are okay. Those, obviously, younger patients will have their phones and their FaceTiming and sort of calling people. But older people who have not got mobile phones, that's not happening. Yeah. So they've actually got iPads on the ward. We did have somebody who was terminal and family couldn't come in and visit, so they managed to set up a FaceTime call so he could actually see his relatives before he went and they could see him. But it's not the same as holding hands and being able to say goodbye.
No, of course. And I think, we see on the news, I guess we're now quite familiar with seeing images of ICU and those kind of really critically ill patients on ventilators, being turned onto their stomach, and quite distressing images. But actually, it's really fascinating to hear from you, almost, I guess, what's happening on the everyday wards. These are wards that patients are still coming in because they need surgery, albeit in these circumstances it is urgent, it's not elective. But it's fascinating to hear then how your role has had to kind of adapt to that. And as you say, you might be going back to something you've done before, but it's such a completely different arena now. But it's totally different. And of course, the teams are all completely different as well. There's the ward I've gone to, there's 4 new staff suddenly arrived on the ward, and they had fewer patients at the time because they were only taking the COVID patients.
And then they've got extra staff, but we need those extra staff for the time-consuming things. But we're all there almost as a pair of extra hands. We're working almost the same shift patterns as we were before, because we don't know at what point. I don't know when I'm going to be called back to pre-assessment. Things are being changed day by day. We're giving one set of instructions in the morning. In the afternoon, somebody comes and says, actually, that's not quite how we're going to do it now. We're going to do it this way. So things change day on day. Fortunately, we're not having to wear the full PPE, but it's still got that impact.
Yes, yeah. It sounds like then there's a lot of stuff that just in that changing role, changing setting that's been quite hard. What has been sort of for you the one thing that's been the hardest in this period of time?
The actual work itself has not bothered me too much. I've gone in, I know a lot of my friends have gone in and they've had butterflies before they've gone, they've had anxiety about going in. I've just gone in knowing that God's on my side, and with him I can do anything. So the work itself hasn't worried me too much. I've had to change my shift pattern slightly. We've been told we work in the same shift, but I normally do 8:30 till 4:30. The early shift starts at 7:30. So for me to go in at 8:30 would have disrupted everything. So I'm having to get to work an hour earlier, but that means I come home an hour earlier.
Sure.
With very dry, cracked hands from the constant hand washing. Even using hand cream a lot, I've found my hands are sort of peeling. I've got sore face from wearing the face mask and the goggles, almost like an indent on the nose from wearing the goggles. But knowing you're coming home and you've got the potential of bringing that virus home to the family. So it's walk through the door, shoes and coat off. I term it my corona coat. My coat I use for work, I don't use anywhere else. And it's home, shower, hair wash, get everything off and clean. Clothes that I've worked with go straight into the washing machine on almost a boil wash. And then I can say hello to the family.
Sure.
So it's that change in the way you come home that's, I think, for me, been the hardest, and not being able to walk through the door and give Zoe a hug.
Yeah, of course. And I'm genuinely getting a little bit emotional just listening to what you're saying. You know, we stand on the doorsteps, every Thursday, and we're clapping and we're supporting the NHS and, of course, other key workers, emergency services. But actually to hear about, I guess, that those personal sacrifices, they may seem like really minor things, but we all know how difficult it is when you've got, really dry and sore hands, or when you've got something digging into your nose, and how uncomfortable that is. And then, as you say, coming home and not being able to just say hi to your family straight away, a whole new routine. It's that element of sacrifice that is just phenomenal to kind of hear, and huge respect for all of you who, your colleagues, obviously those at other hospitals as well who are dealing with this. So how can we pray for you? You know that we're praying for you anyway. If there was maybe one or two things that we could pray for you particularly, what would that be for you?
Well, obviously the biggest thing is safety. All the PPE in there, it's all there for our safety. I don't feel quite as concerned as others, as I said, because I've got God on my side, but I've not gone into right to the front line. Some of my colleagues, people who were anaesthetists or even anaesthetic associates, so they're not trained as anaesthetists, have gone from anaesthetising patients, they're suddenly ITU doctors. Surgeons are having to broaden their horizons and work doing different things than they've done before. So it's that strength and that wisdom to make the right choices at the right time. The relationships between the staff, because obviously going into a new team, the team I've gone in has been brilliant for me, but I know others that have had a few issues with personality clashes, people being asked to do things that they're not happy doing. So the wisdom on how to deal with that, for the strength and the patience for everybody to get on. Obviously, prayers for those patients that are vulnerable, that are lonely, that are not getting the visitors. and for their families. I mean, what it must be like to have somebody ill in hospital that, you know, could potentially die and you can't go in and visit must be quite tragic for them. So it's the whole situation. Those in care homes, that we've also got people from care homes that have come in, we found they've got corona. You can't send them back to that care home until you know they're clear because of putting other people at risk. So just safety all round is the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, of course. Absolutely. And certainly, you know, as I say, we're praying for you, and continue to encourage the church family to be praying for you and your colleagues and others within the NHS. Thank you so much, Sue, for joining us, for sharing your experiences. We do hope that you can stay safe, and that at some point some normality will return, and you might be able to go back to your old job, the one that you're used to doing.
I don't think it'll ever go back to how it was, but hopefully it will go back to a better state than it was, and people will find new ways of working and more positive ways.
Yeah, fantastic. So thank you so much. It's been great to chat with you. Well, that was really fascinating.
It was, you know, we've heard so much on the news about what life is like in the NHS and in our hospitals at the moment. And I hope we've all been clapping for our NHS workers on Thursday nights. But to actually hear from someone who is in the middle of the situation, being moved wards and having to adapt to a new role that requires a new skill, is really quite amazing. So thank you, Sue, for sharing your experience with us, and we continue to pray for those within our wider church family who are working across the whole spectrum of the healthcare profession right now.
Absolutely. Now, with lockdown continuing, many of us are discovering more and more daytime television that we may never have known existed if we're normally busy during the day.
That's right. And something you're likely to see on one of the main channels during the daytime is some sort of quiz or game show.
Now, I'm sure many of us are familiar with the classics at tea time, like Pointless and The Chase, but perhaps you're now becoming familiar with shows like Tenable, Tipping Point, Eggheads and Hardball.
So we thought it was time we entered the game show market ourselves with our very own quarantine quiz show. And who better to present it than the king of quizzes?
No, we're not talking about the true quizmaster, Alan Tratt. We're talking about the king of all age talk quizzes, our very own youth leader, Luke Wigston. Enjoy.
Hi, and welcome to the Quarantine Quiz Show with your host, Luke Wigston. We're doing a Mr. and Mrs. quiz today. Let's go find out who our contestants are. And let's welcome our first guest. What's your name, where you're from, how long you've been married, and how's it all going?
Hi, we're the Smiths.
We're from Wellingborough/Leicester.
Well, one of those two. We're not sure which yet.
We've been married for...
We've married for 8 months.
And we're finally in the same house, so it's going well.
Yeah, so lockdown's been a great success for us so far.
Good to hear from you. Welcome the Smiths.
Thank you.
And welcome to our second guest. What's your name, where you're from, how long you've been married, and how's it all going?
Well, we are the Phillipses. We've been together for 4 months, and considering we're doing this video chat, Luke, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
We're doing all right.
Well, we've been married for 4 months. We've been together for almost 3 years. Small technicality.
Okay, great. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Our first round is called the paddle round. Each couple will sit back to back with a paddle that represents each other. I'll read out the questions, and it's their job to tell me who fits the answer best. If they get the same answer, they get a point. Let's play the paddle round. And so we're ready for our round one. Question 1. Who is the clumsiest? Oh, okay, there you go. So that's a point to the Phillips. Well done there. Second question. Who is the most patient? Oh, wow, you're both right on that one. Who is the funniest? Oh, that's so nice that you agree. Who is the most likely to leave dirty clothes on the floor? Oh, well done. This one's a very important one. Who is the best dancer? Oh, you agree on that as well. You're very much today. Who watches the most TV? Oh, well done there. We swats. Oh, no, Kieran.
Well,
So close to the end.
Ah.
Next question. Who has the best taste in home decoration? Ah, there you go. There we go. Next one. This is an important one as well. Who is the bossiest? Oh, yeah. Say agreeing as well. Who sleeps the longest? Oh, no points there for the Smiths. Unlucky. And the last one, which is probably the most important one that we all need to know right now. Who is the best at social distancing? Oh, well done. Points there each team. Well done. So comes the end of our first round of the shoe round with the shoes as paddles. And we have the Smiths with 8 points and the Phillips with 9 points.
Oh,
after round one. Let's see what round two has in store. Our second round is called Do You Know Me? I'll ask Chris and Kieran a question about themselves and they just have to write down what the answer is. It is Laura and Eden's job to work out what their husband's answer will be. And if they get the same answer, they get a point. Let's play Do You Know Me? And so for round two, Do You Know Me? Let's see how they get on in this one. Question 1, Chris and Kieran, what is your favourite film?
Oh.
There we go. I think they seem pretty confident on this one. Laura and Eden know what they're going to write down. So, Chris, are you ready to... Is everyone ready to show?
Yep.
So, Chris, do you want to reveal what you've done? Wow. Crocodile Dundee. Laura looks pretty confident there. Laura, what have you put down as Chris's favourite film? Crocodile Dundee. Well done. Good point there. Kieran, what is your favourite film?
I don't think it classes a film more like a trilogy.
Okay, it's a trilogy. That's okay. We'll include that. The Lord of the Rings. Good trilogy there. Eden, what have you put down? Lord of the Rings. Well done. Second question. What country would you most like to go visit? For Chris and Kieran. This one's a bit trickier. You may never have been there.
That's tricky.
Kieran's done.
Yeah.
There we go. Laura and Eden, have you finished? Okay, so Kieran this time. What country would you most like to go visit?
Germany.
Germany. Okay, very nice. I'm not sure what that face means, Eden, but we'll find out. What have you put down? Bermuda. Well, I think that reveals some
That's
hope
yours.
there,
What
Eden.
country you want to visit?
I'm afraid to say. Chris, what country would you like most to visit? Well, that's a running theme here with Australia. Laura, what have you put down for Chris's country? Oh, it's so close. New
Oh.
Zealand.
Oz/New Zealand.
New Zealand.
That's not a country.
Maybe
That's
that
true.
Oz/New Zealand. I'll give you half a point for that. Well done. And the last question in this round for Chris and Kieran. If you had a day off, what would you do on that day off? What would your dream day off be?
Just one thing.
If that's what your husband would do, try not to write down too many things.
I've got it.
Chris is finished. Short and sweet.
The rose is coming on.
Eden still thinking?
I'm finished, actually.
You're finished.
I wrote quickly.
Okay, are you ready, Laura?
Yep.
Okay, Chris, reveal, what would your dream day off be? Wow. Any particular one?
Alton Towers, probably.
Alton Towers, to go to a theme park as a dream day off. Laura doesn't look confident there. Laura, what have you put down? Go for a walk and play it on the PlayStation.
No.
Chris would never want to do that.
No, exactly.
So, Kieran, here we go. What would your dream day off be?
Simple. Game all day.
Game all day. That sounds like a good day off to me. Game all day. Eden, what have you put down? Gaming. Wow, well done. That's a good one, that is.
No.
Well done. Point to Kieran and Eden. So at the end of that round, the scores are a 9.5 to the Smiths and 11 points to the Phillipses. Our third and final round is called True or False. I will read some statements out, and it's their job to work out if it's true or false, using the shoes. The ladies' shoe will represent true, and the men's shoe will represent false. If they both have the correct answer, they'll get a point. But if they both have the incorrect answer, they'll get minus a point. It's all to play for here on the Quarantine Quiz Show. And welcome to our final round, True or False. The couples are tied very closely at the moment with 9.5 to 11 points. Let's see who's going to come out as our top couple this week. True or false questions. We've agreed as couples that the truth shoe will be the ladies' shoe. And we've agreed as couples that the false shoe will be the man's shoe. Let's see how we get on. Question 1. The 5th wedding anniversary is wood. True or false? Okay, so we have, it is actually true. So well done to the Phillipses of getting that one right.
No.
Second question this round. The blue whale is the biggest fish known to man. Okay, you've both gone false and you're both correct. Does anybody know why?
Not fish.
No.
Not a fish. Well done. Trick question there. Question 3. The biggest county in the UK is Yorkshire. Okay, so you've both gone true and you're both correct there. It is true. It is the biggest county in the UK. Question 4. Guitarist Brian May is a founding member of the band Queen. Okay, that is true. Oh, Eden's shock at that one. And our final question. Coconuts grow on palm trees. Okay, so that answer is true.
Oh.
Where did they go again?
No close.
I
No,
thought they
sorry,
had
both
three.
Kieran and Eden. So after that round, I'll let you know that the scores are very, very close. We have very, very close indeed. We have the Smiths with 13.5 points
Yeah.
Very impressive. And we have the Phillipses with 14 points. That was so close. That was so close. You're very good couples to have on our first show, on the quarantine quiz show. But if I wasn't that harsh and you had a full point for that, Laura, then it would have been a draw. But unfortunately, that's not how this show works. Thank you for taking part. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us on the Quarantine Quiz Show. Join us next time for more lockdown laughs.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Luke, for hosting the Quarantine Quiz Show. Of course, commiserations to Chris and Laura, but a huge congratulations to Eden and Kieran, who will go down in history as OBC at Home's first ever Quarantine Quiz Show champions. Well done to you. Now, moving on, we know that there's one feature in our show that many of you will have been looking forward to since the last episode. In fact, some of you may only be watching this episode just to see this one feature. Such is his growing worldwide fame. He began with Pilates. He then moved into the garden. But today he's back inside to give us a masterclass in a form of art that very few of us will ever truly master. Let's find out what's new with Nigel.
Oh, hello there and welcome. Can I just start by thanking you for all the positive comments we had about the last show, and do keep bringing in those ideas of things you want me to look at during this series. I have to say that some people have raised a few concerns. They have said that, well, the Pilates and the gardening, Nigel, is looking after our physical well-being. But what about our mental well-being? What advice can you give to help us stay sane and alert during these lockdown times? Well, that of course is a really good question, isn't it? And today I want to try to address that. I want to share with you my love of maths and geography as a whole. Now, I think we need to address one of the issues before we go on, and that is there are people who don't think that geography is important. Yes, I know, incredible, isn't it? But there are some who would say that history, for instance, is more important than geography. Now, the chief protagonist of this is Bill Davis. Now, Bill is really madly passionate about history. And I just wonder whether it's because he remembers more of it than most of us. I don't know. But let me just share with you one of my favourite poems from a guy called Steve Turner. History repeats itself. It has to. Nobody listens. So, Bill, I hope you're going to enjoy this nevertheless. So, why is geography important? Well, I think we can look at the current COVID-19 crisis and immediately see why geography is absolutely essential. Social distancing. How on earth can we be socially distanced if we don't understand geography? A basic awareness of spatial existence is absolutely key. We would be lost without geography. So let's have a look at some of my favourite maps. And here's one of mine. This is a fantastic map. You'll recognise this. Many of you live here, of course. This is OB. And this is really a fascinating map and actually was put into good use only in the last few weeks. Some good friends of mine, Rob and Jill Masons, used this map to rediscover a lake. The lake is over here in the eastern lands of Oadby. Oadby, of course, is split by the Great Divide, which is the A6. Well, Rob and Jill set off from their home in the western lands across the A6 and found a long-lost lake. Now, let me just show you a picture of that long-lost lake. Up by Florence Vag Way, this lake was rediscovered by the Masons. And in fact, Mrs. Swan and I followed in their footsteps only about a week later and also found this. Now, it is interesting, isn't it, that actually some of the people who live in the eastern lands have claimed that they knew about this lake the whole time. Particularly people from the House of Neville, the House of Bennett and the House of Lateef said that they were very familiar with this mythical lake. And in fact, Graham of the House of Neville took a picture of the legendary creature that lurks in the depths of that lake. For those of us who lived on the western side of the A6, Graham, this is a frog. So, Rob and Jill Mason used this map to go and explore the environs around where we live. And of course, if you know Rob and Jill, and if you watch the Sunday services, you'll know that they are madly keen about maps, because as Rob is singing his songs as part of the Sunday morning service, we're all looking at the maps that are on the wall behind him, aren't we? Let's be honest about it. So, as we now understand that maps are really interesting and come in many shapes and sizes, how do we actually go about making a map? Well, I want to show you how to make a map. Now, why can I show you that? Well, because I'm an expert at this. Yes, I am a graduate of the University of Leicester, 1982 Geography Department. And as part of my geography degree, as a graduate of geography, I specialised in map making. And in particular, I specialised in the important art of colouring the coastlines in. Let me just show you an example of some of my work. Here is England. You'll recognise England, no Wales. Oh, we can only wish, can't we? No Wales on there, but you can see the delicate way I've coloured in the coastline. I'm particularly keen about the wash there. That was a nice little inlet to do, and I love having the Isle of Man out there just to colour in that blue coastline. Really interesting. I've got the tools for the job, and really very, very good, very educational, very good for the well-being. So if you're a beginner, how do you begin to pick up this skill? Well, I think there's a very important lesson that we need to make sure that we understand before we start. We have to walk before we run. Don't try something really difficult, because you will just get disillusioned and you will give up. So what am I talking about? Please don't start with Norway. Norway is for experts only. As a rule of thumb, if a nation has fjords, don't go there. This is for professionals like myself and like John Bond to really do. Stay away from Norway. So where might you want to start? Well, perhaps this might be a good place to start. Australia, no fjords, a nice little island down there with Tasmania. That's a good place to start. But I can hear you say, Nigel, some of us are not really blessed with a lot of ability. Where should we start? Well, you're right. As we sit here today, we can probably think of those people who might struggle even with Australia. Yes, I'm thinking of June and Jan Ingle. So where might they start? Well, how about this? This is Hungary. This is a perfect place for June and Jan to start. Why? Because it has no coastlines. Absolutely. Great place to start. Start where your ability will take you to. But another warning, I think. Ellie Cox. Ellie, this is not a map. Don't colour it in. So, hopefully you've had enough help there to get underway, and I would really love to see some of your completed maps with all of those colourings around the outside. So do enjoy that. I think it will really help you with your mental well-beingness. So that's all I have time for today. Let me know if you want me to look into anything in the coming weeks, but stay safe, and grace and peace to you all. Goodbye.
Ellie, we're on. Can you stop drawing Daniel Craig? Come on, we're on.
So there you have it. What better way to beat the boredom of lockdown than map making with Nigel?
I can't think of anything more fun to be doing with my time right now. That's what's new with Nigel this week. We look forward to seeing what he's getting up to over the coming weeks. Don't forget, as he said, if you've got any suggestions for him, then you can get in touch with us. obcathome@oldbybaptist.church is the email address you'll need.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget that Aspects of Life goes live on our YouTube channel this evening at 7 p.m. And we'll hopefully be back with another episode of OBC at Home in 2 weeks' time.
Until then, stay safe. Do keep an eye out on our website and on our social media channels. And don't forget that we're always live every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. And you are more than welcome to join us if you are able to. But for now, it's goodbye from us two.
Bye.
Bye.